Hello and welcome to another lesson on soundproofing. Today, man, I'm excited. I've been working hours on this video and I think you will notice that it pays off. Today will be about showing you exactly how to build a soundproof door. I did part one, and actually a lot of thought went into changing some of the things I talked about in Soundproof Door Part 1 series, which you can go back to. But honestly, on Part 2, I'm going to go through a lot of the stuff that I changed, and we'll go start to finish with how to build a soundproof door today. I built soundproof doors over the years, and this video is all about what I've learned, rethinking the design, trying to make the design as efficient and cost-effective while also being obviously soundproof enough, which is not an easy task. Before I jump in though, I do want to say I have that free resource for you, which is my free soundproofing workshop. You can check it out right away at soundproofyourstudio.com/workshop. If you're on this journey of learning how to soundproof a room or a studio, I highly recommend you check out that free workshop because it's just going to pull all the information together in one place rather than you having to search all over YouTube for it. So to check that out, just go to soundproofyourstudio.com/workshop and I'll see you in the workshop. All right, let's dive into this lesson on how to build a soundproof door. Okay, so as you can see here, I have built an entire model in SketchUp of this entire door, and we are going to break it down in this video. So basically the first thing I want to talk about is I'm going to break this down all the way to the studs. So here we have our double wall system and our floor right here. And actually I'm going to take the floor out. So just the two stud walls. Some people commented last week, oh, why aren't you staggering your frames? You totally can stagger. In my opinion, it's not the end of the world. I did talk to Rod Gervais about this, and he said he's seen studs actually touch each other from bending inward. I hope that doesn't happen, but you could always stagger them as well. But from a soundproofing perspective, I'm not sure if it makes that much of a difference. What I did do is add in these wick isolation clips that you can see right here. And these are actually 1.5 inches wide, which I find so interesting because I almost always recommend building a 1-inch wall between your double wall system. But for these clips to properly work, you need to have 1.5 inches. So they had a cool CAD file. I decided to put these clips in. These are the wick isolation clips from Mason Industries, and they can hold up to 250 pounds each. They're kind of like the industry standard for some of the best clips, short of the DNSB clips, also by Mason Industries, which are even more intense. I usually recommend the IB3 clips, which a lot of you may have heard me talk about. And the IB3 clips are great. They hold up to 38 pounds per clip. And honestly, our doors, as you're going to find out, are about 125 pounds. So using 4 of those IB3 clips in these crucial positions of the midpoint on the one of your king studs, either the most outside king stud or the middle king stud. Notice I did it on this side too here, at the middle of the door height and then at the middle of the header height here. And this is what J.H. Brandt recommends, and I like this idea because it's really just holding your doors together, holding these walls together, because the doors opening and closing is just going to put a ton of stress on your wall framing. So yeah, those are options there. You can use the wick isolation clips, in which case you need to use 1.5 inch. Honestly, for my clients, I might still recommend the IB3 clips, which will save some money, and they're easy to order than these, and if you use 4 of them, it will still hold the weight of the inside door. All right, now let's talk about the rubber seals. Last week I talked about putting the rubber on the outside of the king studs, but this week I've completely changed everything with the framing. I don't like the idea of buying a prefabricated frame anymore. I thought about it a lot and I thought it would be easier, and in the end I don't think it's going to be easier and it's going to cause problems. So I'm going with the J.H. Brandt method of putting a 1/16 of an inch thick rubber along the side here, and then on the bottom, he says, which a lot of people might say that doesn't make sense, but I think the main reason is so you get a really good seal. So the 16th inch goes up against the 16th inch, and we're going to use acoustic sealant on the middle and the 2 sides of the rubber all the way around the door. You can see it up top there too on all the sides here. So this is an important part. This will keep odors out from traveling through the gap in your doorway, and it also creates a nice seal. You are connecting the 2 walls, but rubber is a viscoelastic polymer, meaning it helps, just like green glue, just like mass-loaded vinyl, it helps reduce the vibration of sound, and so it's actually a fairly good insulator of keeping sound out. All right, Now, let's go into how to actually build our door. So again, last week I talked about buying a door from True Door, a solid core door, and I think they're too expensive. I think just going to Home Depot or Lowe's here in the United States, or a big box store if you're in Europe, Australia, Bunnings, and New Zealand, go get a solid core door there. They should weigh 66 pounds. And the ones, I know the solid core doors at Home Depot are $125 versus $180 plus shipping from True Door. So save a little money there. I think their doors are good enough quality, and you can paint them or stain them if you want. So we're going to start with that door. So I'm going to grab that here. So the door itself, like I said, is 1 3/4 inches wide, which is important because this is going to help with our lock set. And then it also weighs 66 pounds or 30 kilograms for those in the metric. And that's not enough weight to match our 2 layers of 5/8 inch drywall, which is what our goal is with these doors, is we want to make a continuous seal. Imagine in a perfect world, you wouldn't have a door and you could just teleport in and out of your soundproof room. Obviously that's impossible. So we have to create an opening that is as good as possible for continuing the mass of our 2 layers of 5/8 inch drywall. So to do that, we want to match and ideally exceed the mass or the weight of the doors on each side, so that we can keep that seal. That sound STC rating of 63 is what we're shooting for in this situation. And so I'm going to design the doors to do that and exceed the weight of our walls. So first we need to figure out what is the weight of our walls. Standard 5/8 inch drywall is 2.2 pounds. 2 layers of it is 4.4 pounds. I like to use a standard 36 by 80 inch door. So the total square footage of that is going to be 20 square feet. And if you do the math, 4.4 times 20, you get 88 pounds or 40 kilograms. So we know that our door needs to be at least 88 pounds each. Each door needs to be 88 pounds because we have the same amount of weight on each side of our double wall system. The thing is that we want to exceed that because a door is not a perfect seal like a continuous piece of 2 layers of drywall. So because we have the seal, we're kind of trying to make up for the fact that the door is a weak point in our system. And so we try to exceed that mass as best as possible. To do that, what I recommend doing is adding a layer of 16 gauge steel. In the past, I used 8 pounds per square foot of sheet lead, but I don't like using lead anymore. It's toxic, and I just don't like the idea of using a toxic material. Plus, it's expensive and hard to source. 16 gauge sheet lead has a weight of 2.66 pounds per square foot. And then we're going to cover it with 1/8 inch plywood, which you can get fairly readily at most hardware stores. And this way, you can add some mass to the inside, the back side of your doors that face the inner cavity on both sides. And that added layer will get us up to 125 pounds per door. We're going to leave a 3/4 inch gap around the inside of our door. So let me show you all this real quick in the model. So there's our there's the steel right there, and you can see there's a little bit of a gap. I left 3/4 inches of a gap all the way around our solid core door so that we can add a bank vault seal, which I'll talk about in a second when we talk about building our frame. And if I take the steel off, you can then go back and you see the plywood, which is right there. There's our 2 sides of our door. And so this little added layer is what's really going to help us. So we put all that back together, get your door, and that's going to add the weight that we need for our door. The other thing you're going to notice over here, which is this little guy sticking out, and this is our continuous hinge. So you can see the continuous hinge here, $85. This is again from True Door. This goes the length of the door. It holds up to 450 pounds, so way more than we need. And I think it will really help with keeping your door flush and not moving as much over time. It goes the entire length of the door and is flush mounted on there. It does add some width, so you got to account for that in your rough door opening. Lastly, the other part of the door that we need is the mortise lock. So this is the mortise lock handle. I actually diagrammed this out to spec here. We can kind of see this mortise lock. One thing that's important is that because the mortise lock fits the 1 3/4 inch door, and this is just a common problem you're going to run into with building these custom made doors. But the solution is that you cut out around the plywood and the metal for the handle here. And then that handle will stick out a little bit and you'll lose some of the depth of this part of the handle, but it will still work. And you'll notice over here that it is really, really close to the side of my seals. So we're just barely getting by with our 2 3/4 inch back set, which is a very important part of this whole system, is to have a big enough back set to allow for the 3/4 inch plywood here and the perimeter seal right here. So I've thought all this through for you to make sure that it works, because with my first door, this was a huge mistake that I made. I didn't have a big enough back set. We put too much space between the edge of the door and the handle, and our seals didn't fit, which then ruins your whole seal, and the whole system is not as good as it could have been. This guy right here, the Cal Royale, thought a lot about this. I know it's a hefty price tag, but again, it gives us the big enough back set of 2 3/4 inch, which the Home Depot ones are cheaper, but they don't have enough of a back set. Plus, it has a nice clean part right here that allows it so that, you know, our seals will fit, whereas some of the cheaper mortise locks I looked for had too much metal kind of around it. This is the type of stuff you have to think about when you're doing soundproofing. It's absolutely insane. So I'm hoping this helps you out. Spend the extra money on this, because in the end, this will withstand the weight of a heavier door, having a commercial grade mortise lock. And then the mortise also helps with not going through the entire door, so it helps with soundproofing. One thing you can do is add some gasketing. So this is just like 99 cents per square foot. That's definitely all you need. So $1, and you just take some of this gasketing and you put it over the face. You cut out a bit to go cover this face right here, and that'll help prevent sound from like coming into the lock set and going through these little holes and stuff right here and then into your room. Seems like, you know, overkill, but this is all part of the process. These little details add up over time. Lastly, I'll say, you know, it's a good idea to hang the door first and then add your metal and your plywood. So we've got our plywood there. There's the metal behind it. It's got the plywood on top. So we put that on after we hang the door, just because the door is going to be heavy already. Let's not make it too heavy, and then you can put it on there. Now let's talk about building the door frame. So the door frame, as you can see here, this is the back side of it. Let me kind of clean this up for you guys. So I'm going to take my seals off. All right, so now you can kind of see our door frame design here. So this is the 5/4 inch wood stock right here, and this is going to go from the bottom underneath your rubber. So touching down near the rubber here, all the way around, you're going to bring it all the way up to the top of your frame, and then 5/4 inch wood stock again goes across the middle here, and then same thing on this side. The 5/4 inch wood stock doesn't go too far. It doesn't bridge the entire thing. Make sure that you don't bridge anything, because that ruins our soundproofing. It'll protrude 1 1/4 inches out, because this is how far your drywall is going to protrude. So if I put the drywall back on here, you can see that the drywall goes right up against like that, and then eventually you'd put your door trim on, and then you have a nice sealed up door. Again, acoustic caulking around all this stuff is really important, and if there's any gaps between here, you can put some backer rod and acoustic sealant in there as well. So that's the idea with our door frame. And before, I had talked about trying to get a pre-built frame, because I thought it'd be easier to hang the door, but you know, with all these seals and the custom nature of all this, there's really no way to do that. So I came back to the basics, and I said, let's use a really solid 5/4 inch or even bigger, 2 inches. We don't want to go under 1 1/4 inch for this piece of wood, because it needs to support such a heavy door. Now you're going to see these other guys here. These are this is a 1x3. So you can see this right here. After we put in our initial door frame, we're going to put in the 1x3, but you actually want to hang the door first, because the 1x3s are going to be put in based off our door. So let's actually say we're hanging our door, and then we're going to put in these 1x3s, and the black stuff right here is actually Frost King weather stripping. So this is going to be pushed up against the door, so that when the door is closed, you get about a 50% compression on the weather stripping. And that's going to make your first seal, and this is very important. You're still going to have a big fat bottom opening at the bottom of your door, which we'll talk about in a second. You're like, okay, that's not sealed. And this second set of seals is going to go over your floor. So at this point, you know, you would put in your, this is a 1/2 inch flooring. So that goes up a 1/2 inch. This is our first layer right here, and then the rubber. And then we realized that our gap is a little bit smaller under here, probably more like 3/8 of an inch, which is their goal when hanging a door. Alrighty, so crazy stuff. We've got our 1x3s all the way around, and then that Frost King, which I'll show you real quick. And the 1x3s are perfect because they fit. They're 3/4 of an inch. 1x3 is actual size is 3/4 of an inch. So the Frost King 3/4 inch weather stripping right here, $6. You know, if you have to replace it, it's cheap. And this stuff will go right on top of that 1x3 and stick right to it. So that's what I recommend for your inside seals. A lot of people recommend trunk rubber, GM trunk rubber. We bought it, we used it. It's very rigid. The door tends to bounce off of it. I didn't like it. The Frost King ended up working way better, way cheaper. So in the end, that's what I recommend to my clients. All right, so now that we've got this part set up and our door is there, we can add in the 1/8 inch plywood and the 16 gauge metal now, and that's gonna go, you know, around. It's gonna go on the inside of the 3/4 inch seal. So we have that bank vault seal. Let me just show you what that looks like real quick. So here's your bank vault seal, where the door is going to hit that, and then you're going to have your Zero International seal after it. So these are the seals we're about to put on, which is going to hit that second layer. So let me show you what that looks like. So we'll go on the other side of our door here and kind of back up a little bit. So these guys are the perimeter seals, which are expensive, and a lot of you guys might try to find cheaper ones. You know, this is where it's kind of up to you and your budget. This is what I recommend because I think it's the best. These are adjustable perimeter seals. They're highly recommended, Zero International. I'll show you guys real quick. I have this pulled up here. Yeah, very expensive, but the best. So these will, you know, go up against your door. Over time you can change them, make sure that the seal is really solid. I'm about to put these and install them in my own door, so I'll let you know how they work. But this is what I recommend on the two sides and the top of your door. You could go a cheaper route if you wanted to, and this is actually what J.H. Brandt, I think, says in his door building guide. You could just do the 1x3 again, and just make sure that, you know, again, you have enough backset over here. Make sure your backset's right, so you have enough of a gap here for your door handle. But yeah, you can do all that if you want, and that would save you $500 because the 1x3 plus Frost King is very cheap. But I would warn to say that you might not get as good a soundproofing, because I've done this myself, and that final really solid seal that you get with a high quality seal is worth it. Now, there's no way around it. With this door system, you have to put in a bottom seal, and I recommend getting the 0367 AA heavy duty surface mounted automatic door bottom. This is, again, sort of the highest of the line on acoustic side of the seal. This is how it works here, so you can see that. When the door drops down, the seal, when the door is closed, it hits a little button that drops the seal to the floor. So in our diagram here, you can see that I've kind of put this in so that that seal is down, the door is closed, and there's no air coming under the door anymore. And this thing is designed to stop sound at a high STC rating from going through your door. And remember, you're going to have two of them because you have a double door system, so all the seals will work even better once both doors are installed. All right, so that's how you do the seals. Now we've got most of our door finished. I'll put the handles back on there so you can see the handle there. Now, the last part of our door system, assuming that you're building both doors, so what we can do here is put in the insulation. So let me show you with the other door. So by the way, this is the pink insulation in our walls here, which I haven't really talked about. One of the big myths that people don't realize is that this insulation can actually go through your air gap if you want. You could buy 2x4 insulation, put it on either side, try to maintain the air gap. But if you're using thicker insulation, like I did in my studio, to get an R30 value or higher because of the outside walls all touching the outside and needing better climate control, you can do faced R30 insulation that goes through both wall cavities. That's okay. It won't kill your isolation. The real key here is that the two 2x4s aren't ever connected. All right, so here we have our final double-sided door, but what I want to show you is actually the inside. So I think I can do this where in the inside of our doors here, you're going to notice that you still have this cavity between your doors. So that's the rubber seal that we put on, and then we have our 5/4 inch plywood right there, wood stock I mean, and then our 1x3s right here, and this little area doesn't look so nice. So what we want to do is we want to actually add some Corning 703 or Knopf Ecos insulation. The first layer can be, I've made it yellow, assuming you're buying the Corning 703, because that's kind of what it looks like. And you see how we filled that first layer in, cut it perfectly. You know, if you want to glue it in with construction adhesive, that's fine. Or if it fits snugly, just with friction alone, that's fine, because we're going to be covering it on top with another layer. And let me show you real quick. GIK Acoustics actually sells this stuff. I really like their Ecos brand, this one that's the 3-pound 6-pack. This rigid fiberglass is more eco-friendly, and I do like it. You can buy the Corning 703, same exact price from them, and that'll give you 6 of these guys, which is more than enough to do these door panels that I'm about to talk about. This is also great stuff for your acoustic panels. It's what I recommend, and GIK is great here in the US and in Europe, but you can also source this from local building suppliers. It's usually not at like Home Depot or Lowe's, or it might be in Bunnings in Australia. And then also, I just want to mention, they sell fabric by the yard. This is acoustic fabric. It's nice. And then Guilford of Maine is kind of the industry standard for the highest level acoustic fabric. Also has good fire ratings, but you pay for it with the $20 per yard. And this is $12 per yard. So I usually buy my fabrics from GIK, just so it's consistent with my GIK panels. You guys can go to a local fabric store. As long as you can breathe through the fabric, then that is also going to be acoustic, meaning that air can pass through the fabric itself and into the insulation behind it. Fire safety is important, so knowing what the fire ratings are in the fabric is also helpful. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. So we're going to use either the Ecos or the Corning 703 in here, and then we're going to do fabric wrapped Corning 703 or the Ecos fiberboard, and I just chose like a off-white color, but you could do black or blue or whatever you wanted, and that makes our final door seal. So you can see the final seal here looks really nice all the way around, which is our goal for this opening here, because we don't want to see the rubber or anything like that. This also helps with the insulation of the door, and adds to the isolation of the door because of having that insulation in there. It also means that your doors are not technically bridged. If we were to put wood in there, our soundproofing would not work as well. So this, again, fiberglass and rubber, they don't conduct sound as well as wood or metal or concrete. So these type of building materials are essentially still decoupling our walls. So let me just put it all in there, and then you got your 2 layers of 5/8 inch drywall. There's the finished doors on both sides, mortise locks on either side, and voila, there is your finished door. That was a lot, right? Now you're probably wondering, how much does this door system cost? Well, it's not pretty, I'm not gonna lie, but let's go over it real quick. So this is from my blog article that I write every week, if you're not familiar with this, on my website. But this is the system. So we've got $124 for the Home Depot solid core door. The rubber, $27 or more, depending on if you need more for around your door there. The Cal Royale lock set is $206, so $207 if you go up there. The heavy mortise seal hinge is $85.05. Our heavy duty surface mounted automatic door bottom is $157.58. That Zero International perimeter gasketing is a tough one. It's $538 there, but I still recommend it. And the Frost King weather stripping is $13. We got our wood stock for $24, 1x3 for $22, 16 gauge metal. This one's a tricky one too, $120.43. If you can source it locally, that's what it should cost. Shipping can add a ton of extra cost. And then the plywood's pretty cheap at just $18. So the total cost per door, like one actual door on the 2 sides of the entryway, is $1,338.53. I know. It's a lot. And then the total cost per entryway, so we talk about a passageway with both doors, is $2,677.06. So I used to say you could do it for $1,500, but I just don't think it's that easy. And so now I'm kind of working with my clients and using my budget calculator, using this number now, because I like this design. I know it's going to work really well. And there's places, if someone was on a really tight budget, you could forego, like I said, these seals and try to just add your own seal. But again, you might get questionable results. You could try to get a much cheaper lock set. Again, I've done this. My lock set is barely hanging in there with such a heavy door. So also it ruins your soundproofing going all the way through the door. So these are things to think about. So those are some places where you could maybe save on costs. You got to do a door bottom. You can maybe get a cheaper one, but $157 versus $50 or $80. I don't know if it's worth it. And then you need some nice hinges. That's just the way it's going to be. So do what you want to do. This is what I recommend for my clients. And I'm kind of sharing all this information with you to help you out. All right. So that was a lot, everybody. This video took me hours this week, but it had the ulterior motive of also creating a system for my clients, so that I know exactly where to source everything. I know exactly how much everything costs. And I have a way that I know I like to build my doors. And this is coming from my own experience, as well as researching J.H. Brandt and what I know from Rod Gervais. So it's kind of all this information coming together to my own somewhat personal design, heavily borrowed from J.H. Brandt. That said, if you guys are going down this road, you know how complicated this is. You can see in this video that, I spend way too much time thinking about it. But if you're going down that route, definitely check out that free soundproofing workshop. Just go to soundproofyourstudio.com/workshop. And if you're interested in working with me, if you're like, I don't want to do all this work that Wilson's already done, and you're interested in some consulting, I do open up a few slots here and there for people to come on as a personal consultant of mine, and I help you through the entire process of building your soundproof room or soundproof recording studio. If you want to do that, you can always go to the website and just click book free soundproof clarity call, and you'll fill out a quick little application. And then if you meet the criteria, we'll jump on a call together and we can talk about your project. I'm always happy to help people all over the world. Metric, Imperial, doesn't matter. Australia, New Zealand, doesn't matter. I'll help you find the materials. And so let me know if that's interest of you. And I hope you all have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all next week.